Hi everyone, I hope you've had a good week. Didn't get too troubled by the snow. I thank you for all those introductions. They've really been interesting to read. I just checked now and there are 88 entries on the introductions list. That's amazing, amazing contribution. And we're quite an interesting group. I imagine you've read a lot of the postings. We come from several different campuses. We have Amanda in Costa Rica this semester. We have students from Bermuda and Poland and Brazil. So all of the conversations and the group work and the field book work should be really, really interesting. The field work, there still seem to be some questions about that. If you think of yourself as a reporter, and you've selected the site where you're going to do your reports from, file your reports periodically, and I'll ask for them. Then they'll go on the message board. And they'll be when we're studying the different units. But the first thing for you to do now is to figure out where you want to do this field work. And think about it. You want someplace that is going to be easy to get to, because you're going to need to do these field reports more than once. And a place that piques your interest, either because you've heard it's good, or you know it's good because you're there regularly, or you know it's bad and you want to be able to critique it. It's up to you. It doesn't have to be perfect. I've read about half of the papers on where you stand. And sometimes I get to the end of reading them and I still don't know where you stand. When I ask a question, you can pretty often take me literally. I use metaphors a lot, so when I said, "Where do you stand?" I meant it. If we were in a classroom, I might have you literally get up and stand either in the center of the room or on the periphery of the room or outside of the room, or we might draw it on a blackboard or something like that. And I really don't mean in relation to the Catholic Church. I mean in relation to whatever church community you have been raised in. And if you haven't, then that's fine too, because you stand somewhere, wondering or not wanting to be bothered at all. At different times in my life, I've been standing in different places too. Like so many of you, I was raised a Catholic. My parents probably were like re-energized Catholics after World War II. I was born right at the end of World War II. My dad had come back from the Pacific. My mother was actually in Europe during the war with the USO. So they came back ready to start a family, and there I was. So they were ready to have, to be active in a church. And I went to Catholic school. Actually, before I even went to Catholic school, I went to the Episcopal Sunday school. The other kids in the department building went to Sunday school, and my mother met the reverend in the A&P one day, and she asked his advice. How was she ever going to tell her little girl that she couldn't go to St. Luke's with all the other kids in the building because we were Catholic? And Reverend Blomquist said, "Send her to Sunday school." So I went to Episcopal Sunday school. And sometimes I think that I maybe became a liturgical scholar, because at 5 years old, I already had that kind of comparative experience of a place where children really belonged and where liturgy really mattered in life. And it wasn't always that way in the Catholic Church. I was in the choir as a little girl, and that's about all little girls could do to be active in the church. So I sang in the choir all through elementary school. And I was in college during Vatican Council II, which was a very energizing time. The church was looking at itself again and getting a refreshed sense of identity. College is magical just because you're living and working and studying with people that are just about your age. And that never happens again in life. So there's a lot of energy around that. But when I went back home after I graduated, I was pretty disillusioned. Mostly because that energy wasn't there, And that view of the church wasn't there either. So at that time, I think I probably slipped off to the periphery, as so many of you have been writing about. And it wasn't until a few years later that I decided to come back to the center. Very tentatively at first, but I found something was missing in my life, and I decided to come back to the center. So I appreciate your honestly sharing your struggles with you, and I think some of it is a facet of age and our prior experiences as well. Students from the past might tell you that sometimes I'm tricky. I ask weird questions sometimes, and I do tricky things. I put a question on the message board under syllabus. Nobody's found it yet, or at least you might have found it, but nobody answered it yet. It's a question that's, it doesn't, just take a stab at it. Take a guess. I haven't killed anybody for being wrong. And it would be interesting to see what it is you think it's going on in that picture. It's particularly relevant to this unit that you're going to be studying this week, Unit 2. I think that Unit 2 is one of the most important units of this course. There are actually 2 units that are really foundational, and this is one of them. So spend time thinking about ritual, thinking about symbols. Look at all the things around you that could be considered symbols, because this is the foundation of what we're talking about. And it's not just religious people who ritualize, it's human people who ritualize. In the past few weeks, we've had that terrible tragedy of the shooting in Tucson. And people don't know what to do in that situation. And one of the things they tend to do is bring flowers and stuffed animals to the site where someone has died. You see roadside shrines on the highway, and you know that somebody died there. Nobody gave lessons in how to do that, but it seems to be our American cultural expression of a way of marking a sacred place. That's ritual, that's symbol, and those are the kinds of things that we're talking about in this course, but we start the discussion in this unit. So I've activated the grade book. As I mark your papers, I return them to you. Sometimes I do it with comments on how you can improve things the next time, or instead, maybe you want to save it for your portfolio. Put it aside, and maybe in 6 weeks you'll see how you've got a different angle on that, or how you see you've really learned so much about this aspect. So sometimes I give you little ideas that way. If I highlight something in yellow, it's probably a grammatical error, and I'm not your editor, but you've misused something, so I'm trying to draw your attention to it. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. Put them on the message board, email me. Have a good week. Bye.